One other point I want to make is fundamental exercise on the trumpet is pretty much crucial for any trumpet player. Every trumpet player that I know that I've worked with in my life practices fundamentals to one degree or another every day. The trumpet isn't an instrument that you can take days off from and feel good about playing the trumpet the next day in general. It's something you need to commit yourself to, and fundamentals are part of that commitment. It's very important to do a certain degree of fundamentals every day. With that said, there are days when, like I said before, the warm-up needs to be minimal because you have a lot of playing to do that day. There were a couple years when I was playing a Broadway show, doing 8 shows a week, plus I was playing with Winton in the orchestra here and various recording sessions around town, where I didn't have a whole lot of time to practice for a couple of years. But I did do fundamentals as part of my warm-up exercise every day before I'd go in to play. I was playing Anything Goes. I was a lead trumpet player in that show. And I had it down where I could do a warm-up in 2 minutes or so, to where I felt comfortable enough to be able to be centered to play lead trumpet in the Broadway show. And that's true for most trumpet players, I think. When we go on tour, we'll be traveling all day, go check into a hotel, drop our luggage off basically, then go to the gig and have to perform that night. So it's very important to get to a place where you have a warm-up that you can do that'll get you centered in order to perform in a very short period of time. I want to touch a little bit on that, just ways to get warmed up quickly. The first thing that I'll usually do when I have a very short period of time to warm up is I'll play a soft long tone for just a very short period of time, but just to make sure that I can get a sound out of the horn. Because sometimes it's hard to do that if your chops are swollen from the day before or whatever. So I'll give it like... There's a few of those to get it centered a little bit, make sure that I can get a sound out of this thing, which isn't always easy. There's another exercise that I almost always do that was given to me by a great trumpet teacher I had named Victor Paz. When I first met Victor Paz, we played together in Chico Farrell's Afro-Cuban Jazz Orchestra. And I played with Victor for about a year before I asked him if I could study with him. And the night we were on a gig at Birdland, when I asked him, he said, okay, call me tomorrow after you play 1 hour of practicing one note. And so the next day I got up and I played one note for an hour. I played a middle C and I held it as long as I could. And I did this for an hour, just held the note as long as I could and then reattacked it, held it. By the end of an hour, it sounded about like that. It was horrible. And my face hurt, my chops hurt. You know, it was misery. So I called Victor up and told him what I did, and he just laughed at me over the phone and said, don't play the horn anymore today. Come over to my house tomorrow when you get up, and we'll have our first lesson. So that's what I did. I went to his house the next day and sat down in his chair. He had a chair in the living room set up for me with a music stand in front of it and a metronome. He explained to me what he meant by practicing one note. He set the metronome to go, like maybe it was 60 beats a minute, so a second per beat, something like that. He said, all right, sit and tap your foot with the metronome, breathe in time, and play one note after 4 beats of taking a breath in. One short note. That'll be... That's it. And that's what he meant for me to do, to practice one note for an hour, to do that repeatedly for an hour. And there would be times where I feel tension in my neck or my shoulders or whatever, and he said, just shake it out, take a breath, take a little break for, a few seconds or whatever you need, and then back to it. And when you do that, if you spend any amount of time doing just that, be it, an hour is kind of extreme, but it's incredible the difference that'll make in your trumpet playing in the long run. But even if you spend 5 minutes a day doing that, what it does is it coordinates everything to a degree that I can't even articulate in words. It coordinates your tongue, your air, your lips, your fingers, your foot, your mind, all with playing that one note. Just pa, that's it. And once you get that kind of coordination happening with one note, you can apply that to every note you play. And so that lesson from Victor within itself became part of my quick warm-up. Obviously I couldn't do an hour of it, but if I got to the point where my chops are vibrating from just doing a long tone on a low C, and then do 4 or 5 of the short notes. Just, 4 or 5 of those. Just that sometimes would be enough for me to feel warmed up. If not, then I would do a few more of the short notes and add in some, I think it's Schlossberg exercises, some flexibility. Things like that, and I could get warmed up pretty quickly, and I can get warmed up pretty quickly now. And sometimes all it takes is fluttering and buzzing my chops in the shower in the morning, getting that hot water on my face, on my lips, get the blood flowing through there by fluttering and all that. And so it's really, really important to get to the point where you can warm up quickly.